Hi, I'm Sashwati Sarkar and you're watching The Times of India. Studying in the US in 2025 isn't just about getting into a top college. It's about navigating rising tuition fees, a volatile rupee, tightening visa rules, and a job market in flux. From OPT uncertainties to service record terminations, Indian students face tougher questions now than ever. Today, we tackle all of it head on, from smart budgeting and financial aid to political campus climates and choosing the right cities to study in. Joining me today for delving into these very crucial issues is someone who's been guiding students through this evolving maze. Yukti Jaswal, Associate Destination Director USA at IDP Education. Yukti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sashwati.
Thank you for coming here, taking our time, and
I'm glad.
joining this
I'm glad.
conversation. So,
Thank
as
you.
you already know, the topic of discussion today will be US, and US. So, let's start with the hard one. So, in 2025, we have seen a lot of visa revocations and service termination in the land of opportunities. What advice would you give Indian students to maintain their legal status as immigrants in the US? You know,
Um,
to
Sashwati,
safeguard, rather instead of maintaining, I should say, to safeguard their legal immigration status in the US.
yeah, Shashwati, US has traditionally been the most sought after destination for Indian students. And in fact, thanks to its academic excellence, thanks to the cutting
The
edge
size of the economy.
I'm sorry, the size of the economy, besides, I would say, diverse courses that the US offers and the post study work opportunities that it gives to students. The service revocations by the US government has been ceased. In fact, if you very recently, it has been announced by the US government as well as ICE, which is Immigration and Custom Enforcement, has seized the service revocation. And so no Indian student is actually coming back. But it is important that the student remains well informed and maintain the legal status. They need to ensure, first and foremost, that all of their documents are updated, may it be their I-20, may it be their visa status. Every US university has international student office. If they have
Right.
any issues, they can always go there, check with them, ask them questions. Their employability status has to be in check. They're allowed to work 20 hours part time during their course load.
And that is on campus.
That is on campus for the 1 year, and 40 hours during their breaks. But they have to inform the International Student Office. All of these things are very important when they're there in the US. If you're abiding the visa regulations, there is no issue that the student would have ever in the US. So you need to abide by laws, regulations of the US, which comes under the purview of F1 student visa. And student can, of course, student need not to be nervous about or stressed about, or parents need not to be stressed about it. If you're doing everything by the book, students usually have no issues while they're there in the US. But communicating with the resources which are available in the US university is very important and very critical. And understanding the immigration laws of that particular country is again very important.
So one more question: what, according to you, prompted the stay on service termination? Why did the US government suddenly go back on this decision of service termination?
Well, there were a lot of universities. Okay, why did the government go on to the service terminations? There were a lot of
they rolled back their service termination decision.
absolutely.
Yes.
There were a lot of universities who had filed a case against the U.S. government on probably uh, students being terminated, or service termination has happened because of their minor offense. So there are a lot of universities on behalf of the student has fought a legal battle, and there are few which has come out with winning the legal battle for students. And I believe this was the message which was sent across by the US government, that if you're abiding law, you be there in the US, you can study, you can actually experience the campus life. But it is important that whatever is there, follow those rules. Whatever is there as a visa regulation, you're an immigrant coming to a different country, follow those rules. That is what the US government or ICE would want to reiterate to students. If you go onto the US Embassy website, under F1 student visa, it is clearly stated what are the regulations, how do you need to maintain your immigration status while you're there in the US, who can help you within the university or outside the university as well. So one of the reasons, yes, there are a lot of universities which has put across the concerns of the students to ICE, to the US government, and hence the revocation would have happened.
Yukti, with US universities raising their fees and rupee under constant pressure against the dollar, how, according to you, should Indian families budget their kids' study abroad plans in the US?
Shashwati, planning in advance is something which is very important, and I would really say that focus at least 12 to 18 months in advance when you're planning your finances for US education, or for that matter any other destination as well. When we talk about US, besides the tuition fee, there is living costs, there is health insurance, you will travel back and forth, airfares. All of these things need to be factored when you're accounting or when you're planning your finances. So be realistic, have a very comprehensive cost analysis with your parents if you're a student, and of course with your kids if you're a parent. Second, have diverse funds. What I would say is, besides just solely concentrating or solely taking the family funds, you can also apply for loans. There are a lot of banks which offer loans collateral free. There are banks or there are private organizations like NBFCs, which gives collateral free loans to some of the US universities. So take that into account and then plan it ahead. US universities offer scholarships, assistantships, which student can take full advantage of. Again, applying early for those scholarships and assistantships will be absolutely critical. So a student in the US can work 20 hours per week and 40 hours during their summer break. However, that would not offset their cost completely, but can help them with their basic needs.
Okay. Given the evolving job landscape globally and in the US, what are the most promising fields of study for students studying in the US? And is there any field beyond STEM? Do you see students get showing interest in any field beyond STEM?
Well, first, I think I'll go on to the question. Question that to answer is which are the emerging fields. We have seen a lot of AI boom right now. So, of course, artificial intelligence.
That's a disruptive force.
That's a disruptive force. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, I think without thinking, one could say is one of the most sought after field of study. But at the same time, we have seen many of the US universities offering computer science program within which there are specializations of AI, ML, robotics, cybersecurity. So these are one of the fields which attracts lots of international Indian students. The other field of study is, of course, engineering. US universities offer a diverse range of programs in engineering: mechanical, civil, chemical, material, aerospace,
CSE
aeronautical.
Is, I think, the most popular. Computer
yes,
science.
Yeah. Computer science, electrical engineering. So all of these fields, mechanical engineering, if I talk about aerospace and aeronautical, I think there's no best place to study aerospace and aeronautical as for US as compared to any other destination. When I talk about health sector, we have again seen a boom in health informatics, coming off drug regulatory, public health. All of these we've really seen students applying for these courses and being successful in it. There are great graduate outcomes out of these courses. I would again want to add, within every course module now AI is added, uh, irrespective of the fact whichever course that you apply now. It is a part of your curriculum, and US universities have made sure that every curriculum has some component of artificial intelligence so that people are aware that what are the basics of AI. Coming on to non-STEM, we have seen students applying for nursing programs. Public health in some universities is again non-STEM, that we have seen students applying. The traction for non-STEM could be a little lesser as compared to STEM, because of course STEMs offers you 3 years post-study work opportunity or right as compared to a non-STEM course. But traditional courses like, say for example, journalism, psychology, are gaining traction among Indian students but lesser as compared to STEM courses.
Do you see interesting short-term courses which students look at?
Not exactly, Shashwati. Students in US would either go for undergraduate, which is a 4-year program, or a 2-year or 1.5-year master's. But we don't see many going for short-term courses.
Vocational course of sorts?
Not much.
Not
Not
much.
much, because I think most of the students want to experience the campus life. Most of the students want to experience the entire package to a certain extent in the US. So US university, if I look at it, takes a student at least 6 months to adjust to the education system, because it's credit system. You can pick and choose what you wanted to study. When I talk about small term vocational courses, they might be 6 months. By that time, it gets over. So I think it's important, if a student wants to experience education life in the US, you either go for 4 years, which is undergrad, or you go for 1.5 or 2 years for a master's program in the US. If I look at undergrad, you can go as an undecided major. It's not important that you decide a major once you enter the US university. You just study all courses, and after first semester, you decide what exactly you wanted to do. At masters, you can pick and choose your specializations very easily. But I would really suggest you can take up online courses if you want to, just to add on to your profile to get into US university. That's completely acceptable. That's what most of the universities also need, that you're updating yourself on that particular course or field.
Yukti, we all know that there's a lot of uncertainty in the US right now with around OPT and the work visa rules. How should students actually assess whether it's still a smart career move to choose US as their study abroad destination? Is it still a smart choice? Be honest about it, please.
Yes, of course, Shashwati, it is a great choice. There is no doubt about it. Now, I do understand, because students and parents can be concerned about OPT. OPT is actually optional practical training, which allows a student to work once they complete their education in the US. And specifically, if you're a STEM student, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you'll be allowed to stay there for 3 years in all and work full-time in the US. So, of course, every student and parents would want to know about the return of investment. Having said that, OPT, there is a bill introduced in the US Congress which says that OPT should be scrapped off. But it is just a bill. It is not a law as of now. There are so many bills right now in the US Congress, and to bill and to become a law takes years. It doesn't happen so quickly. There were already 3 times or 2 times that wherein the bill was introduced in the US Congress and it did not get passed. So it's a very long process, for students and parents to know. And most of the US companies, or most of the Fortune 500 US companies, rely on these students. US generally rely on the global talent, and their basis of research and innovation is all of these immigrants, which have helped their economy, which has helped their research.
Right.
So I would not say personally, but generally also, none, whether that's US, will be keen on scrapping off the OPT. It is a very important asset for the US government in general.
Right. So, I mean, while considering US or while actually focusing on US as their study abroad destination, what all conditions should aspirants factor in before making the final choice?
Um, if I talk about
US in particular, yeah.
US in particular, I believe that understanding which program the student wants to go, that is something which is very important. As I've already stated, there are so many US universities. The students really need to be focused on the program and specialization that they intend to do. Second, of course, the university. When they are actually researching about the program, they should know which are the universities offering that program. What are the research opportunities within that university? What are the alumni outcome? Where is it located? Budget, we have already spoken about. Budget would be the third thing that they need to look at when they're choosing a US institution. In addition, what are the career outcomes once they're done with their education in the US? So, all of these are the factors that the student should consider when they're choosing to study abroad generally.
Is there any point specific to the US?
Specific, I would say US is a hub for innovation. US is a hub for academic excellence. One needs to be clear about their short-term goals and long-term goals. Yes, the application process for US is a little longer. They want you to know besides your academics. They assess holistic profile. They do not go by the fact that if your percentage is, say, 65%, we would not take you. They would want to know you as a person. What is it that besides quantitative scores, qualitatively, what have you done? There are standardized tests which are required by some of the US universities. If you're looking at bachelor's program, SAT is what is needed. If you're looking at master's program, GRE or GMAT is what is needed. But again, those are all qualitative. Quantitatively, those are all quantitative. But qualitatively, they would want to have your letter of recommendation. They would want to have your statement of purpose. They want to know your long-term, short-term goals in the application material. And then the university would respond to you back. Profile is very important, or profile building is very important for US universities admission.
Yukti, we are seeing a lot of news, hearing and seeing a lot of news about political activism in US university campuses now. Well, as we have seen traditionally, US has been very welcoming towards diverse viewpoints. But currently the situation is slightly different. So how should Indian students actually navigate their campus life currently without getting unnecessarily, caught between politically sensitive issues and jeopardizing their immigration status altogether?
I would say that US thrives on different viewpoints when it comes to their campus life.
That's what we have seen
Yes,
so far.
that's what we have been seeing.
So far.
So that's what we have been seeing, definitely, Shashwati. But I would say the student needs to be cautious. The student needs to be well informed. We advise students to stick onto their academic plan. We would ask the students to make sure that they be a part of various cultural organizations or clubs within the US campus and take part in anything which is more academically aligned and which meets their career goals in future. They should be aware about the local laws, rules and regulations. They should be in line with the university. They should check with the university with respect to public gatherings, what are the laws and what are some of the things that they need to be mindful. We would really suggest to be apolitical. We would really suggest if you have your views, there should be a way to present it. But you need to be mindful of the law of the country where you are. I believe even in India,
we see a lot of US universities pushing pathway programs, foundation years and hybrid admission models. But how should students evaluate if these are truly beneficial or just expensive detours.
Shashwati, the US university doesn't force a student to take up these pathways. In case the student is not meeting a particular requirement, then of course the university suggests them these pathway programs. For example, the English proficiency score is low. The university would suggest some English courses. Or there is one aspect in their profile or in their academics which is weaker. And when you're applying for a course, there's probably that the university would want more in that particular course. Hence, the students is being suggested or recommended. On another note, if the student is changing the field, so if a student is from electrical engineering, wanted to pursue, say, computer science, but there are some courses that he needs to take to get into computer science program in the US, of course, there will be some courses or some credits that the student would need to take before he gets onto masters in computer science. So again, these courses are suggested and recommended. The students in US or students while in India, when they're applying for US university, they don't apply to one US university, they apply to multiple US universities.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And every university have their own course curriculum. But of course, there'll be some courses which might be common for all. Now, US universities in some cases can suggest a student, okay, you don't need foundation courses, you can directly come for our program. Some universities might suggest, because you're going in for computer science, these are the foundation courses that are required. So it's exactly or up to the student and the parent to decide which university eventually they would want to enroll in.
Right, but there are many expensive detours. So it's like, if you could shed a little bit of light on hybrid admission models, how do they work and how expensive are they?
Well, hybrid admission models, Shashwati, were very famous during pandemic. I would say during the time when students were not able to go to the US. But we suggest students that if you're looking at studying in the US, apply from here to US. Hybrid also becomes an issue that if you take up some courses in India, and whether your visa would be accepted for a US university after you've taken the hybrid course in India. So there is a bit of uncertainty.
Okay.
So one student has to be very careful. They can also visit our IDP office to understand varied offerings which are offered by US institutions, and then they can decide. But hybrid would always have this nuance, or I would say, nuance, whether once I go for the visa interview, will there'll be 100% success rate or not.
Okay. Understood. So next is a very crucial question. Once again, it's about finances. So in today's financial climate, do you think living on campus is cheaper and safer, or students can save more if they rent out a place off campus?
Shashwati, US offers both on-campus
Yeah, that is known.
accommodation and off-campus accommodation. If I look at undergrad student in the US or a bachelor student who's looking at applying for US, in some campuses, it is mandatory to stay on campus for 1 year. And that is a great experience for students. The campus life, they are a center of it while they're there on campus. There's so many activities that are happening in the campus, and they're a part of it. When I talk about a student who's looking at masters, they have varied options to choose from. They can be on campus, off campus. Yes, certainly, on campus will be a little bit more expensive than off campus, but the students are not forced to stay on campus. Specifically, students who are looking at masters, undergrad, after 1 year or 1.5, 2 years, they can live off campus. In addition to this, because of great infrastructure of US, the students studying in a city can travel back to suburban area to live and stay there, which will be cheaper for a student. So
what about the travel cost, like the
well, you have cables, you have trams to
Affordable or
take you.
pocket-friendly transport.
Absolutely. And student gets discount on those cards that they have to travel when they have to travel from one place to another. Yeah, public, even if they're using bus, there are discounts on students. If they're using local subway, there are discounts on students. Student gets specific discounts. So it's very easy commute. And students, for example, studying in New York City can always go out of New York City and live in a suburban area, which will be cheaper for them. Well, mostly the campuses are urban, suburban, and rural as well. So when a student is choosing a university, these are some of the things that the students can decide or students can look at before settling onto one of the universities or enrolling for one of the universities.
What should Indian students keep in mind while exploring financial aid options while studying in the US, especially if they're applying to multiple universities?
Yes, a great question, Jashwati. There are ample of financial aid opportunities for Indian students. There's no doubt about
Is
it.
there a resource where they can learn about all of it together?
Shashwati, when you are applying for US universities, of course, you apply for multiple universities. Every university have their own scholarship. The student have access
That is
to
institutional scholarship.
That's institutional scholarship that the students get. Graduate assistantships that students get. There is a very famous scholarship which is hashtag You're Welcome Here scholarship, which is offered by US universities, a group of US universities. That is something that the student can look at. They have a website and they can look at. I would say applying early is something which is very, very critical when you're looking at scholarship.
Yes, you mentioned that, yeah.
Again, 12 to 18 months prior, you start filling up the application. There are a lot of scholarship deadlines which are there. In addition, there are separate scholarship essays which a student might have to complete or fill. Once you do that, of course, you are being admitted to US universities. In most cases, is with scholarship at an undergrad level. At a master's level, there are a lot of assistantships which are being offered by US university, graduate, research, administrative assistantships. It also depends on the skills of the students that when he's applying for the institutions in US. And that could really offset the cost of living as well as tuition. So have a good application when you're applying for these scholarships or when you're applying for these assistantships. In addition, I would also say this, that there are universities which offer in-state tuition waiver. So in some cases, if you are eligible for some scholarships, you can also be eligible for in-state tuition waiver to these students. So there are ample of opportunities for students to apply for financial aid scholarships. Every university have it on their website, or they can visit us. We have placed so many students, around 11,000 students to all destinations with scholarships. So they're welcome to visit the IDP to know which universities are offering what kind of scholarships. And depending on that, the students can make a choice or shortlist university.
Absolutely. Coming on to our last question. So if a student is prioritizing, apart from choosing the right university for the right course, if one of the major priorities is, minimizing living costs without compromising on the quality of life or education, which US cities and regions would you suggest?
I would rather not name the cities or US regions. I would just generally say that whenever you're choosing a university, the quality of the institution and the quality of the program is very critical. It is very important for you to know, or for a student to know, that what are the research labs in that particular university. More research labs, more opportunity for funding to them as well. What each professor is doing, whether he would be teaching me or whether he would not be teaching me. I think these are some of the aspects students and parents should look at. At a bachelor's level, I would suggest they should look at student to teacher ratio. They should look at 1 is to 14 or is it 1 is to 60? At a master's level, it really doesn't matter much, but at a bachelor level, it really matters. So when we talk about minimizing cost or minimizing living cost, yes, planning is required. You need to see the tuition fee of the university. You need to see where is it that you would be living. You can also look at or leverage online calculators which are available to students on the university page or on the university websites for them to calculate what would be the exact tuition fee, what would be the exact living cost. So minimizing, plan your budget, know your budget, and then look at US universities and then look at...
But no city guidance or region
So again,
guidance.
I mentioned the tuition fee doesn't vary by city.
No, not tuition fee. I'm
The living
talking only
cost.
about living cost.
The living cost varies.
Best cities in the US for an affordable living.
So when we talk about states, Shashwati, states like Texas will be less expensive. States in Midwest of the US will be less expensive. When I also look at south of US, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama will be less expensive as compared to probably a state like New York, California. But again, in New York and California, all cities are not expensive. There'll be some cities which are expensive. So this is how the student can look at not compromising on the quality of
life and education.
Life and education, but looking at something which is cost effective. This is what the students can look at. I would really say there is Midwest of the US, which is Ohio, Kansas, Kentucky. Ohio, for example, has maximum number of institutions, but at the same time, the cost of living is lesser for students.
That's real. That's a real information that I think our students will benefit from. That's a very meaty piece of information and advice. Thanks a lot, Yukti, for joining this conversation today and sharing such meaty advices and insightful pieces of information. Thanks a lot for your
Thank you,
time.
Shashwati. Was really glad that we had this conversation. But thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thank you.
Thank you.